order the March 10th meeting of the Common Council. The notices were mailed and posted on 3/6 of 2020. The first order of business will be roll call. Carrie, could you do the roll, please?
Mayor Kim Smith.
Present.
Tom Smith.
Present.
Dan Stevens.
Here.
Stephen Knott.
Present.
Jim Olson.
Present.
Diane Wolf.
Here. Thank you. We'll continue with item 2, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 3, the rules of the City of Onalaska Common Council and its subcommittees, harassment-free forum. The City Council and the subcommittee meetings shall be conducted in a courteous manner. Citizens, council, and community members shall be allowed to state their positions in an atmosphere free of slander, insults, obscene remarks, threats of violence, or for use of council or committee as a forum for politics. Sufficient warnings may be given by the Sergeant-at-Arms at any time during the remarks, and in the event that any individual shall violate the rules of decorum heretofore set forth, such person may then be cut off from comment or debate. Item 4, public input. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to address the council? If so, please come forward, state your name and address, limit your remarks to 3 minutes, and then sign into the sheet. Welcome.
Good evening. Chaplain Diana McGrath with the Onalaska Police Department. My office is at 2015 Ward Avenue in La Crosse. I just come to offer a prayer of blessing over your meeting this evening. If you choose to bow with me in prayer, you're certainly welcome to. God in heaven, we come before you. I thank you for all those serving here tonight. I ask that you would bless them with health, strength, and wisdom to serve this community, Lord God. I ask that you would give them ideas concerning all the business and items that they need to discuss tonight, that you would give them solutions to issues that have been ongoing. Lord, I ask that you would help there to be a spirit of unity here that would be free of strife or contention, but that your peace would be here. And again, we just ask your continued blessing in this region, and we thank you in the name of our Lord. Amen.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council? Second call for anyone who would like to participate in public input and address the council. Third and final call for anyone who would like to come forward and address the council. Not seeing anyone, we'll move on to the report from the mayor. Item A is concerning the Fleece Nightfall Frolic 5K Run Walk, which will be held on Friday, April 17th of this year. The youth race starts at 6:30 p.m. and the 5K starts at 7 p.m. This is an event that benefits our scholarship program for our Park and Rec, and I encourage anyone who's interested to get more information and participate. Item B is concerning the 9th Annual Firehouse 5K Run and Walk, Saturday, April 11th, and that one is held at 8 a.m. Maybe I can tell you what that one is benefiting. The purpose of this event is to promote an active and healthy lifestyle in our community and raise money to benefit the Children's Miracle Network hospitals. The start time is at 8 o'clock, and they start and finish at the Onalaska Fire Department, so please sign up if you're interested. Item C, Onalaska Area Historical Society event featuring Nancy Tolsted's photos and books will be held at the Historical Society this coming weekend on March 13th and 14th. The Historical Society is not sponsored by the City of Onalaska, but it is located in our public library. If any of you have not seen Nancy's photos and books which depict the history of Onalaska, I encourage you to do so. Item D, the library statistics. The library continues to have a lot of residents visiting. We had over 13,000 people visit our library last month, and those are from people throughout the surrounding area. There's events going on there for all ages every day, and I encourage you to check that out in Onalaska. Item E is an update on the 2020 census. The timeline for the census will be hopefully everyone knows this is upcoming this year, March 12th through the 20th. Households will begin receiving the official Census Bureau mail with detailed information on how to respond to the 2020 census online, by phone, or by mail. So this is probably the easiest way that every person can participate in the survey and the least intrusive. You can do it however you choose. Then on April 1st, the Census Day is observed nationwide. When you respond to the census, you'll tell the Census Bureau where you live as of April 1st, 2020. May through July, the census takers will begin visiting homes that haven't responded to the 2020 census to help make sure everyone is counted. And then in December, the Census Bureau will deliver apportionments counts to the President and the Congress as required by law. We just want to make sure that we get this reminder out to our residents that when completing the census, their response should reflect the address they reside at more than 6 months out of the year. So even if they happen to be wintering or vacationing in another location at the time of the census, they should use their Onalaska address in response if they reside in Onalaska more than 6 months out of the year. And why is this important? It's important because the census results are felt locally. They help determine how $675 billion in federal funding is distributed to states and communities each year. And that money is spent on schools, hospital, roads, public works, and other vital programs. It's also used to determine how many seats in the House of Representatives and Congress that Wisconsin gets appointed. It determines the school district boundaries, and it affects the redistricting that will take place in 2021 when the state officials redraw the district boundaries to account for population shifts. So if anyone's interested in more additional information tonight, we have a table set out in the hall near the water bubblers with the census materials, along with the videos posted to our City of Onalaska website. The Onalaska Public Library is also another great resource for information regarding the census. So please be counted. We'll continue with recommendations for approval and/or possible action from the following committees, commissions, or board. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member requests removal, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in the order of business in the non-consent agenda. So item 6 is the consent agenda. Diane.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to remove item under Personnel Committee, item G2, Office Clerical Support Inspection, for further discussion this evening.
Thank you. Item G2 under Personnel has been moved to the non-consent agenda. Are there any other items council members would like to remove?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Diane Wolf, seconded by Tom Smith to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The consent agenda has been approved. Moving on to the non-consent agenda, item 7 is a recap of the items pulled from the consent agenda. And deviating from past practice, I'm going to then just move right into item G2 from personnel, which was pulled from the consent agenda. So that will be approval of the new part-time job description, office clerical support inspection. So I'll turn it over to Dan Stevens, who is the chair of the Personnel Committee.
Thank you, Your Honor. The item of office clerical support inspection was made aware to the council that the department was going to, anticipated some retirements, and this item passed the Personnel Committee with the idea that we wanted to incorporate a better succession plan and more of a transfer of data or knowledge from the person leaving to the person who would fill the position. So that was why this item was on here. So I don't know if Diane pulled it off, if you wanted to take it from there.
Yes, thank you. After talking with staff since last Wednesday's F&P, I guess at this point in time, I would either turn it over to Eric or Hope or Katie for further discussion.
Or we could have a motion on the floor for discussion.
I will make a motion, as F&P Chair Stevens said, that the motion, or what passed at F&P last week was to make this a part-time position, but I am going to make the motion that I'm going to make this evening is that we approve this as the office clerical position as a full-time position.
Okay, Diane has made a motion. Is there a second on the motion?
I'll second it for discussion.
Dan Stevens has seconded for discussion. So under discussion, Diane.
Oh, no, I was,
Oh, okay. Eric.
Yeah.
Sorry.
sorry.
Yes, to briefly reiterate, with the retirements and following our overall plan for succession planning, the position was proposed as a part-time position, mainly for meeting the budgetary requirements of being budget neutral. Someone would be working hand in hand with the current employee for a period of time. One would be a part-time, one would be the current full-time position, and then upon retirement, then we would have some deferred wages that we could then potentially look at that time, if available, move this position to a full-time position. In discussions, and Diane had inquired, and I believe this makes some sense, people that we would be likely apply for a part-time position may do so because it's not a full-time position. So it's probably not wise to just assume that whoever we hire as a part-time position will want or will fit in that schedule for a full-time position. Therefore, and Diane can speak to the intent behind the motion, but it would make sense that if the position is long-term deemed to be a full-time position, to recruit and hire someone who's interested in a full-time position. Otherwise, we may transfer this knowledge from the full-time currently to the part-time and then go to full-time, and then we'd lose that transfer of knowledge without any benefit for having the position in place. If that motion, or if Diane's motion passes approval, I would also recommend that we would change the top of the page where it says not just full-time, it would be part-time grade 12. Grade 10 is a part-time grade. If that's became a full-time position, it would be grade 12, which is the current position grade of the position.
And then Tom Smith.
Yeah, my question, and I'm fine with that, but then we have two full-time salaries, so how do we pay for that?
We would have two full-time salaries for the bridge of 2 months, but we do anticipate additional retirements within the department.
And we're assured that that person will retire within a few months.
Yes.
That's my question.
Mr. Stevens.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just so I can understand the process better, we will have a set retirement date first, and then we will hire the position, or is there going to be, we're anticipating a retirement? I guess the danger is what happens if somebody doesn't retire when we think that they will, and then we have two full-time positions. Do we create a redundancy?
Thank you. We'll turn it over to Katie Aspenson, who is the planning and zoning lead.
We have received not a formal announcement of retirement, but anticipated with set dates for when those are going to occur. They have not yet been able to formally apply because you cannot put in your retirement notice until 60 days prior to the end of work. So we can't do it at that point, but it is the intention of this person to retire. We also have another anticipated retiree coming in even sooner before that, so that will also aid in some additional funding to pay for that secondary person.
So the impact of the budget then would be finite. We would know exactly what we're on the hook for. And I think maybe a follow-up question, is there a reason that we have a 60-day cap on that? If we want to have a practice of succession planning, maybe we could do something. Well,
Let's go to the city attorney first, and then we'll go to the city administrator second.
It's not our cap, it's the state It's not the city's cap, it's the state WRS notification for ETF.
And then back to Eric.
Yeah, and that the fear of employees retiring giving us prior notice to that is they technically they can't give any earlier, and if something should happen between the current date and the official notice retirement date, they can still back out, but it just makes it more difficult. That's one of the challenges of succession planning, though, is we can wait until the person vacates and you get no knowledge transfer, or pretty much I think any department that we're looking at when we come to succession planning, there's going to be some level of double wages as we try to do that knowledge transfer.
Thank you. Does anybody else have a comment or question? Alderman Knott.
So am I to understand then that as far as any kind of budgetary impact, that I understand that on the near term, how this would be most likely taken care of through wages not spent on an individual who's retiring before the end of the fiscal year. But how about into the out years, into year 2, 3, 4, and beyond? How is this going to have a long-term budgetary impact, or will it also be zero and null?
It would in effect be replacing the current position that we have today. So,
Eric?
Potentially, the overlap would be the time for the current employee still here, pre-retirement, and the new employee learning. And then when the retirement occurs, then we'd still have one person doing the position. So it's the overlap that we're most concerned about the budget, which is why we initially proposed it as a part-time, that we knew the part-time position hours would be sustained by the, that they work double would be sustained over time. Also keep in mind, though, that the current employee has been here nearly 30 years, so it's at the top of the pay, whereas the replacement will likely then be at the lower end of the pay grade.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Knott, you seem like you have.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Alderman Stevens?
Does the amendment do we need to amend the motion to include the pay grade, or was that assumed?
Well, I think it's I'll say that we understand the motion, moving it from part-time to full-time, the definition of that to be changing it from a full-time would increase the grade from a 10 to a 12.
And that was the intent of my motion, if that's the intent of the second.
So where's Hope?
Sure, just wanted to clarify.
So Hope, is there anything else that we would need to take into consideration for the job description? Or are there other considerations that this would have ramifications on that we should consider before making the decision?
The job description will be very similar, except the pay grade would be 12, which is what Cindy's at right now. But I think there would probably be some tweaks to the full-time position job description as well. So we would need to make those changes, but I think they would just, we could make those changes at a later date.
Okay. Alderperson Wolf?
Thank you, Your Honor. And I would think, too, just especially if someone has been in a position for 30 years, that there's going to be some tweaks, or you're going to look at reorganizing or whatever. And I think, too, when we're looking at trying to capture the institutional knowledge and memory of someone who has been here for so long, I think anything that council can do to help facilitate that, I think we need to be on the forefront of that so we don't lose all that institutional memory. Thank you.
Okay. So, Eric?
Not to wind this down a different path, I think it's related to, and Hope I mentioned this consideration. This would be for any retirement, any position. There are also the benefit payouts of time accrued, but we handle that differently on a financial basis that Fred points out. So yes, there's retirements and there's payout. We're not accounting for those payouts in this conversation at this point in time because we pay those out separately.
Thank you. And back to Katie.
I just wanted to clarify that if this does get approved this evening, does that mean that what was considered F3, the part-time office clerical support approval of authorization to fill, is that in effect changed as well to full-time? And does that mean the intent is to post immediately? Or did you want to see the future job description next month?
I feel like that would have to go to Amanda, because what's on the, I mean, that's a very good question, because what's on the council agenda for discussion is stating it one way, and I'm not sure that we can bring it back for discussion.
I apologize, I should have pulled off F3 also, not thinking about that.
Because the council has in effect already approved filling.
I would believe that you could do a motion to reconsider the previous motion.
I think we'll have to, but we already have one motion on the floor.
Right, but you have to come back and,
So, I mean, just make sure everyone is confident that this is the course of action they want to take, first of all.
thanks, Katie.
Amanda, do you think that will be okay?
Yeah, I think you can do it that
Okay.
way.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, the motion on the floor is concerning item G2, the office clerical support inspection, approving the job description. And the motion on the floor is to approve the job description, but with a change in that, to change it from part-time to full-time and to change the grade from 10 to 12. So all of those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. And then we can turn it over to Finance and Personnel Chair Dan Stevens.
So, Your Honor, I think first maybe we'll use this time to, I move that we reconsider item F3.
Okay? Is,
I'll second.
okay, item F3, part-time office clerical support inspection. The approval and authorization to fill the position is now on the floor for discussion. Is there a motion?
Mayor Smith?
Yes?
That motion will have to be voted on
Oh,
by majority
sorry.
to reconsider.
Yep, you're right. Okay, so we'll need to vote on reconsidering that item. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Okay, now the item is up for reconsideration, and we can have a new motion on the floor regarding it.
To think how to word this. So the,
It would just be approval of authorization to fill the position for the full-time office clerical support inspection, if that's what you want your motion to be.
all right, I move that we fulfill the, one more time, please.
I just read it off the agenda.
That we approve the part-time office clerical support inspection position.
Authorization to fill.
Authorization to fill.
As full-time.
It's full-time. Yeah.
See, that's why. So authorize to fill the office clerical support inspection position as full-time.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Dan Stevens, seconded by Diane Wolf. Is there discussion on this motion? The motion is to proceed with filling the full-time office clerical support inspection position. Alderman Stevens.
I think that, am I to understand that the discussion that we just had on item G2 should be pretty much the same, like I can almost say ditto, and, or is there other considerations that we should take into account for this position?
I don't see anyone raising their hand. Okay, so if there's no further discussion, then all those in favor of filling the full-time office clerical support inspection position, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, now we're back to the regular non-consent agenda under finance, and I'll turn it over to Alderman Stevens.
Thank you, Your Honor. Under item 8A vouchers, the following is a list of monies expended since the last common council meeting dated February 11th, 2020, and the total is $12,315,008.83, and recommend approval.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Stevens, second by Alderman Olson to approve the vouchers. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously.
Under item B, Resolution 17, 2020, awarding the sale of $4,680,000 general obligation corporate purpose bonds, and it passed the F&P, and I recommend approval.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve Resolution 17-2020 is made by Dan Stevens, seconded by Tom Smith. Is there discussion? Fred?
If I could, Your Honor, we have with us tonight Justin Fisher from the Robert W. Baird to kind of go over the documents that you've been handed out this evening.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Justin Fisher, filling in for Brad Vigut. What can I say? Interest rates are extremely low. Optimal time to be entering the bond market to be borrowing for these capital projects. In front of you, there's a presentation. I'll run through that. I'll talk about the final pricing summary. We'll go briefly through the financing illustration, and the last few pages is the Moody's rating report. So if you flip to page 2, this is the summary of the competitive bids. So as you can see, the city received 4 bids, with the low bid being 1.65%. Unbelievable interest rates, and really, I mean, you see it all day on the news, and it's really directly related to the coronavirus. You see a flight to safety. There's a lot of uncertainty in the stock market. You can see that going up and down, very volatile right now. And when that happens, people look to where can we put our money and at least earn something and have it be safe. And municipal bonds are that opportunity for quality, safe investments at this uncertain time. And that's what's driving the interest rates as low as they are going today. So going to page 3. The issue summary, so this again is a general obligation corporate purpose bonds in the amount of $4,680,000 to fund the city's capital improvement projects. This issue will close April 2nd of 2020, and the maturities range from October 1st, 2021 to 2039. First interest payment will take place October 1, 2020. First call date, October 1, 2028. There has been no change to the Moody's bond rating. The city was affirmed AA2, an excellent bond rating, and you should all be proud of having such a strong bond rating. Again, the interest rate 1.65%. At the finance committee meeting, the projection was 2.20. So as you can see, came in much lower than that projection because interest rates continue to drop. Again, the winning bidder being UMB Bank. Going to page 4 of the presentation, I won't go through this in detail, but if you look from the left side of the page, that's your current outstanding debt service levy on an annual basis. And then in the middle of the page, that's what the bonding issue that we're talking about tonight is. Basically, what you care about is when we looked at the Personnel and Finance Committee meeting, and we used the 2.20% and finishing at the 1.65%, that equates to about $300,000 in lower interest cost. So significant savings over what was projected and will be felt in your future budgets. And on the right side of the page, that's going to be the combined debt service going forward after this financing closes. The last few pages I won't go through. This can be your bedtime reading material. But basically, it summarizes that the city has extremely strong operating reserves, the expanding tax base, all things that contribute to the city receiving a AA2 bond rating.
Could you explain the difference between the coupon rate and the total interest costs? For those that may not deal with this on a regular basis.
Yeah, so
2%, we're actually underneath that because of the premium paid, correct?
So the coupon is essentially the payment that the interest rate that the the city makes on an annual basis. When you look at page 4 of the presentation, there's the column that says less bid premium. And that essentially is premium that the winning underwriter is going to give you that will be used to offset future debt service. And so the coupon is actually larger than the bond yield, which creates that premium. So essentially, the interest rates are much lower than what you're seeing than the 2%. It's just how bonds, kind of the math works with them.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Are there any questions of our representative? Okay, thank you for the presentation. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve Resolution 17-2020. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please. There will be a roll call vote. Please answer when your name is called.
Dan Stevens.
Aye.
Stephen Knott.
Aye.
Jim Olson.
Aye.
Tom Smith.
Aye.
Diane Wolf.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Move back to Mr. Stevens.
Thank you, Your Honor. Under item 8C, Resolution 19-2020, requesting State Trust Fund 5-year loan of $542,000 to purchase 3 police cars, police portable radios, City Hall roof, and HVAC, municipal code recodification, and wage study. I believe this is on the agenda as the representative from Baird had pointed out. Rates had gone down, and this has, from our initial standpoint, was, Fred, I believe it was 3/4 basis points better. So the city is also saving money here, and I recommend approval.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion on the floor by Dan Stevens, seconded by Diane Wolf, to approve Resolution 19-2020. Fred, did you have any more information on that one? Any questions from the committee? Now, then please answer as your name is called.
Dan Stevens.
Aye.
Stephen Knott.
Aye.
Jim Olson.
Aye.
Tom Smith.
Aye.
Diane Wolf.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 9, personnel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Resolution 18-2020 under personnel authorizes to allow for the replacement of full-time vacant budgeted positions without committee approval, provided that the grave and essential job functions do not change, and Human Resources provides a monthly update on staffing. Through the process, what came out of F&P, I think maybe was a little bit clunky. So there was provided I will make an amendment here and maybe just a few notes beforehand on, I would like to make an amendment to the resolution. So I think we missed the mark initially on the purpose of what this resolution was intended. It was intended to remove delays in the hiring process and the ensuing problems that could arise through staff shortages while not diminishing Common Council's role with respect to personnel. So in the same, in expediting the hiring process, it wasn't just police and fire, but the intention was all city employees. And we, or probably I, for that matter, got hung up on some specific language. And the concern was that the language created a subjective loophole which could cause us problems down the road. With the amendment that is the last one here that was handed out to council beforehand, I believe that adds specifically defined verbiage, and I'm comfortable that it addresses and closes that loophole. Further, this resolution changes, as it changes our practices going forward, it also now includes a sunset clause. So after a year, we will be able to be in a position to take stock and see whether or not we saw improvements in our practices, or whether we encountered specific problems, or if we need to scrap the whole concept, just make little tweaks, or if we can operate in this manner on a more long-term basis going forward from that point. So my hope with this amendment is that we can improve the efficiency of Onalaska City Hall that works for staff, and it works for all the people of Onalaska, and it works for the Common Council. So I I think if we should discuss this and give it a go. If it turns out to be problematic, remember that we can always raise the issue again later and make our changes. But meanwhile, I'm thinking that the net result would be a better and more efficient government. So I don't know if everybody wants me to read what the changes are, or if this is something that, I mean, I hope you've had a chance to look at this. I'm hoping that HR and maybe the department heads, because this will directly affect their ability to staff their departments, can maybe provide us with some feedback, and if this is a positive step or not.
Let's put a motion on the floor, and then we can have a discussion.
All right, so
Could I ask a quick question first? We had a resolution in our packet. Is this what was handed out for us tonight? Is this an amended, or is this a standalone? What would you consider this? Like,
It would be, the motion has not been read in yet, but I would suggest that the motion would be to approve the replacement, Resolution 18-2020, which was handed out immediately before the council.
before he started, that's why I thought it might be cleaner. That's why I wanted to see what the approach was, because I thought we should maybe just talk about the new clean resolution instead of trying to amend what was there, and it might get more murky.
all right.
There's not an amendment, it's a new resolution.
Okay,
New
so
resolution.
perhaps it might be helpful if I were to
Just the replacement resolution, because it's still number 18.
Your Honor, would you prefer that I read the entire resolution or just the pertinent part that changes?
I think if you say the replacement resolution 18-2020.
All right, so I move that council approve the replacement resolution 18-2020.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Alderman Stevens, seconded by Alderman Knott to approve resolution 18-2020. Now under discussion. Alderman Knott.
So I've got 3 copies. I'm pretty sure I'm clear on which one it is we're voting on, but I just want to be sure. So the replacement 18-2020 is the one that says that that where no major changes to the essential job functions of pay grade exist and where the position has been budgeted and funded, city staff shall be authorized to fill such vacancies, and that it also adds on the resolution shall expire on March 31st, 2021, unless the Common Council takes further action to extend it. That's the one we're voting on, correct?
So it's not the one that says set forth in Exhibit A?
Yeah, he skipped over.
Okay.
It's in between.
Just checking.
Oh, yes, okay.
So with the addition of the Exhibit A paragraph also, that's the one that we're talking about?
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, so I think
Good question.
Okay, I got 3 different copies here, and they
Right.
all say different
All
things.
of us
so.
do, yeah.
All right.
I want to be clear.
Yeah, so I want to just say that I think this is a terrific resolution because it seems to add a certain degree of flexibility and certainly chops off probably a good 30 days on the hiring practice, and it has no impact whatsoever on the budget. So I think it's a good deal.
Okay, any further discussion? Any comment from staff? Okay, going back to the resolution then. Motion on the floor is to approve Resolution 18-2020. Please answer as your name is called.
Dan Stevens,
Aye.
Tom Smith,
Aye.
Jim Olson,
Aye.
Diane Wolf,
Aye.
Stephen Knott.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Item 10, Board of Public Works. Item A, approval of the 2020 utility project bid.
Thank you, Your Honor. I will turn this over to Jared. I see that he has handed out bid opening for earlier this evening, so I'll let you take it.
Thank you. Tonight I've handed out the bid opening tabulation for the 2020 utility project. We did receive 4 competitive bids at the bid opening at 10 a.m. this morning. I would point out that we did bond just over $2 million in the capital improvement budget for this project. We did have an engineer's estimate of $1,750,000 for the project. We did receive 4 bids. The low bid was $1,634,976.70 from McCabe Construction. That does include the 3 bid alternates and the base bid. The base bid, the majority of the work is the Sunset Vista neighborhood, which is total utility replacement and new street construction in that area. Staff is recommending we award the bid to McCabe Construction for the total bid cost.
I will move that we award the 2020 utility project to McCabe Construction in the total amount of $1,634,976.70, and that will involve all 3 alternates, 1, 2, and 3.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Diane Wolf, seconded by Tom Smith to approve the 2020 utility project bid. Is there further discussion? Seeing any, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion is approved unanimously. Item 11 is the city attorney's report. I'll turn it over to our city attorney.
In your packet, you should have item 11A, which is a fee schedule. And so these are not new fees. These are actually existing fees. But when we went through the process of creating our current fee schedule, we have lots of ordinances and fees got missed. And a lot of those fees just happen to kind of reside in public works and public utilities. And so in the process of cleaning up, and reorganizing those ordinances, we made sure to pull out those fees so they no longer live in the ordinances. And so we're asking you to approve this just because we are taking them out of ordinance form and putting them in a fee schedule, but none of these fees have actually changed. We're just essentially taking them out and putting them into the fee schedule. Just as kind of a side note, we, because we're going through all the ordinances, are putting together a new format for the fee schedule, which is what's in front of you under 11A. And so if anyone has feedback separate on that, please let me know. But we are just looking for an approval on the fee schedule, just to recognize that we did take these out of ordinances.
Motion to approve the fee schedule as per our packet, item 11A.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Diane Wolf, seconded by Steve Knott to approve the addition to the existing City of Onalaska fee schedule as presented. Discussion? Not seeing any discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Item B.
We wanted to just have a brief discussion on the coronavirus and COVID-19. We met with the La Crosse County Health Department last week to discuss preparedness and what they're doing for the region. And also, I'm sure many of us have followed the news and seen that I think we're up to 3 cases now confirmed in the state of Wisconsin. We've also started getting some questions from city residents as far as what the city's plans are and procedures. And so we've been working internally with the departments to kind of talk through different things as far as continuity of operations and things like that. And so we don't have any policies or procedures in front of you tonight to review, but we are facing an epidemic that may result in a need to quarantine individuals. And so we just wanted to have kind of a high-level discussion on what direction City Council would like to go as far as if we're going to quarantine for the benefit of the city and for employees and residents, if that's something where we want to have a discussion as far as allowing for flexible paid quarantine, or kind of what the purview of the council is.
Thank you, Amanda. Is there anyone from the council that would like to speak? Or perhaps our city administrator would like to give a synopsis of his opinion or position.
The addition, if you look at the language in the agenda again, is this for community-wide spread of viruses and disease. So beyond just the coronaviruses, as Attorney Jackson pointed out, that potentially look at for the next whatever happens down the road. But it does seem to me that quarantining is becoming more a common conversation piece regarding spread of communicable diseases, just not this year, but even over the last several waves of whatever diseases that have occurred. So I guess for a starting discussion point would be if, on the benefit of the city, or if we had an employee that we knew was exposed, and to the benefit of the city not to have that employee potentially spread the disease. The 14 days seems to be the quarantine window for this particular disease. If someone does not have sick time and we say you can't come in, what is the intent of the city for that particular employee? If we are saying don't come in to stop the spread of the disease, is that something you'd be willing to potentially look at? Having not necessarily an employee bank as a benefit, but have a policy of quarantine time. And then what are your expectations if we do pay quarantine time? Are they working? Do we try to extend our technology as much, laptops at home or phone, teleconferencing, or to what expectation would we have of those employees who will then, quarantine on behalf of the city?
Very good question. Alderperson Olson.
Yeah, and that we talked about this for a couple of minutes the other day, and my feeling is if we have that situation to deal with and somebody has to stay home, we know we're a minimum of 14 days, and I think that the city should compensate the employees for that particular venue, noting that is something that's kind of out of their control, and they have to be doing that for safety reasons. I think we should support that.
Thank you. We'd have to have some kind of documentation.
Documentation. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Or something. Alderman Knott.
I think when these pathogens do arise, that there's a tendency, I think, to disrupt more than maybe we need to with how we go about our daily lives. In this particular case, certainly it's important that people do not come in to work if they are sick with something that's contagious and nasty, regardless of what it is. But with today's technology, I would think that if there's a situation where a medical professional says an individual who works on the city staff needs to be quarantined, that that individual will not be waylaid with a lot of symptoms more than maybe 4 or 5 days out of that quarantine period, where they actually could be doing productive work at home. And if we're going to pay them and they're able to do work, now there's going to be questions about who gets to determine when that is. But as opposed to going right down the path of saying 14 days of paid sick leave, basically, I'm not so sure that we need to go that route. And each pathogen will be different too, by the way. Again, this is supposed to be a more general proposal and not just for coronavirus. So I'd like to see that whatever the cause is, whatever the pathogen is, that we get medical professionals on when can they work at home reasonably and when can they not.
Some kind of a guideline. Alderman Stevens.
And that's a good point, but I was thinking there are certainly jobs that are not suitable to work at home. I mean, police officers can't work from home. They interact with the public, and firefighters can't call in CPR or put out somebody's fire from their bedroom. So, and those are cases where, public safety is, we also need to consider that if city employees are interacting with the public, then is there a risk that we spread the disease, whether through inadvertently or through the cause of their work, with people in the public? And we want to avoid the exposure to the citizens, as well as not decimating people, who police or fire or plow the streets or whatever the case is. So, things have to be kind of job specific, but some are more sensitive than others.
Thank you. Alderman Knott?
Well, I guess I have a question then for both Chief Hayes and Chief Ashbeck, since they're here. Is if you have a firefighter, EMS, police officer who is placed onto a quarantine because of a pathogen, and during a period of that quarantine they're asymptomatic where they could actually do work, is there not administrative functions or special projects that they could reasonably do that might be B or C drawer items that you've been pushing down the road anyway? Would you be able to find, meaningful work for them if they're asymptomatic during a period of this quarantine.
I think that there are some limited functions we could probably come up with, and that would be part of this development of plans for that. Whether we could find, 8 hours worth for X amount of days, that might be some challenges to that. But, we don't have just officers that we have clerical staff and whatnot that also could easily be exposed by officers coming back in the office. So they would probably be a little easier to have functions to take up, the majority of the day. But officers, we'll have to explore that and try to do our best to come up with duties, but I can't guarantee if full-time.
Thank you. Eric, were you going to say something?
As the question was posed to the chiefs, it also occurred to me, though, that some of that, in terms of light duty, would also be subject to our contracts with both units. So more to be determined as we investigate that.
It's sounding to me like there's a lot more that needs to be researched on this.
Right. And another aspect that hasn't been brought up is the travel aspect, where we just recently had a person projected to go on out-of-state travel that trip has been canceled. So we have that too. Do we have any other out-of-state travel or out-of-the-area travel planned?
There was
we
one
do coming up.
canceled. I think we had a theoretical, maybe it got canceled, but I'm not aware of one that did.
Oh, Chief Ashbeck, that was canceled, right?
Assistant Chief Miller was scheduled to be in Nevada next week, and that conference got canceled. So
The
that's
entire conference is.
Okay, so thank you. Now I know.
I knew I could work it in.
Mayor?
Yes.
Did we get any advice from the county health department? Should you guys talk with it? Because I would think that this is bigger than just on Alaska, and I know I saw on national TV before I came that even Congress is looking at the possibility of coming up with something nationwide.
Well, and then
I'm wondering if we get any advice from them on their guidance.
The reason that this item has been added to the topic was based on that conversation we had with the county health department. And if everyone got this sheet, sort of the checklist of sort of, preparing your workplace for the virus, offer flexible leave policies, create business continuity plan, ensure sick employees stay home. So these are the recommendations, is what the point, some of the questions I brought up. I think it does bring up, I guess to answer the question, travel. For the most cases, if we are assigning someone to travel, it's rare that that employee pays up front. I think this is a different case, though, with Assistant Chief Miller, right? That they paid on their own funds.
It was a combination of some of the travel he paid on his own, the conference we had paid in advance, but they're hoping to reschedule that conference down the road, so he would be able to take advantage of that.
I think the issue with the travel is if something is canceled and an employee is out money, what do we do? But I think it's a relatively rare situation. How does it work, Fred? Usually we're prepaying those things from the employee card, right?
I was just wondering if we have any pending ones,
We do have travel.
Yeah, Billy's, yeah. Chief Hayes.
In fact, it's on your consent agenda. We have 2 individuals that are being approved to travel to Fire Department Instructors Conference in Indianapolis next month. But from all indications, that conference has not been canceled as of yet. It's kind of a coin toss. It's the nation's largest fire conference with over 40,000 attendees. So, yeah. So, in fact, we also have an individual who's at the National Fire Academy this week, and he was told when he arrived on Monday that because of a potential government shutdown, they are going to try to finish up on Thursday. So, who knows where this is going to go, quite honestly.
Okay.
A lot of unknowns.
Thank you. Let's go to Amanda, City Attorney.
I think we could spend all night going through kind of the different scenarios. What we'd like is, and what I'm hearing, I think, is that we are open to some flexible paid leave for a quarantine situation with some reasonable guidelines, and we can come forward either at a special meeting, depending on what the future holds, or next month, with more definite policies. I know one other situation, and I do have a call into the superintendent of the school district, but we haven't heard back, is the scenario where we're no longer having school. Is that a situation where an employee is not quarantined, but now has perhaps a childcare obligation that they have that wasn't expected for an indefinite period of time? That's another scenario we're looking at. And then in addition to the travel, also the effect that this could have on the Omni Center, Parks and Rec, potential large gatherings. One of the things the health department did say in our discussion with them is kind of it's within their purview to advise cities in La Crosse County to cancel public gatherings. And so we've got that kind of on our minds as well. So if you have, I think, any direction as far as any of those issues, we'd appreciate your feedback. But I think what I'm hearing is that we'll come back with some flexible leave policies for you to review.
Well, and I think whatever the county suggests, they would be the authority that we would definitely follow their recommendation. Alderman Knott.
Clearly, the health officials who are more qualified than us would need to inform any kind of decision we ultimately make. We're looking for options, but I do want to point out that any quarantine, we're talking a lot right now about individuals who either exhibit symptoms or have tested positive for some potential pathogen, whatever that may be in the future. But that's not the only type of quarantine population that's out there. As we've seen, quarantines can also be called for individuals who have just been exposed. And a great many of those who have been quarantined so far under the current virus actually ended up not getting sick at all. So you could have perfectly healthy people who are also quarantined.
Okay, any further discussion? Does staff have enough direction to proceed? And of course, we all understand that if things start moving faster, we will be open to having an extra meeting if needed. Okay, with that being said, I'll move on to the next item of business, which is item 12, closed session. To consider a motion to convene in closed session under section 19.85, paragraph 1, paragraph E of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting of other specified public business, whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Specifically, requests for reduction, forgiveness of truancy forfeitures, IAFF, International Association of Firefighters, Local 127, discussion and negotiation regarding the proposed sanitary sewer agreement with the City of La Crosse. And also to consider a motion to convene in closed session under section 19.85, paragraph 1, paragraph G of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. Specifically, IAFF, International Association of Firefighters, Local 127, prohibited practice complaint, RE, part-time emergency medical technicians, and claim for water leak, 1200 Redwood Street. If any action is required in open session as a result of the closed session, the council will reconvene in open session to take the necessary action and/or continue on with the printed agenda.
Motion to go into closed.
Second.
Motion by Jim Olson, second by Dan Stevens to go into closed session. Please answer a roll call vote.
Stephen Knott.
Aye.
Dan Stevens.
Aye.
Jim Olson.
Aye.
Tom Smith.
Aye.
Diane Wolf.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We are in closed session and the time is 8:02. Diane, you want to pass me that thing that looks... Yep. Just taking care of business here. Just pass them right on down that way. They're for that property with the splitting and the...
Yeah, I think that they didn't realize that it was approved under consent agenda.
No, they're waiting for it. They need it tomorrow, and so Carrie told them if they wait until after closed session that we would sign it and get it to them.
That's why I was wondering why they didn't.
That's more.